What's good, guys? It's Caliber, aka King Ghidra. I have not been at locals, at least modern, in about a month, man, give or take. There hasn't really been a whole lot of decks that I've been looking forward to playing. DDD came out recently, which is kind of cool to mess with for a bit, but it's really tough to play in a tournament setting. I'm actually not too good with combo, but that's kind of ironic because today I ended up going undefeated today at my charity tournament at locals with Branded after the new support drop. So I wanted to make a video highlighting the build that I chose and the card choices and just to yap a little bit about cards. Feels so nice to be back. Before we get into it, shout outs to my boy Rob, who's the cameraman, who also hooked me up with so many cards. The play testing we did the night before was insane because I'm like, I don't know anything about Branded, and just after playing a few sets, it just felt so fluid. Like the game plan was just kind of coming all together, and I just saw that repeating multiple times today. So definitely big shout out to him. Shout out to Team Pandemonium. They don't care about this game, but they're the boys at home anyway. So Brad, Bevo, Legion, every single one of you guys know who you are. And yeah, we're just gonna get into it. So it's a 50 card list. I think something like Galzo has been showing a very similar build, but I went for a Light and Darkness end board. So we're just gonna go for 3 Albaz, 3 Aliber, 3 Albion, just maxing out on a bunch of good cards like 3 Saronir. So this is a very insane combo. Finding a way to dump them in grave. That way the Retribution gets in there first, and then you have another way to Branded Fusion. And then we also have the 3 Fuwalos, just as a hand trap. That should have been at the bottom, but it doesn't matter. 2 Cartesia, 2 Quem. This is fine enough as it is. These aren't things you really need to max out on, since Fusion Duplication can turbo into it anyway. You're really just looking for ways to get the Branded Fusion. It's just been, and it's always been the main game plan for Branded. I used to play this deck a lot when I first started, and then I kind of hated it because it was kind of like if you lost to it, it was just their day. So it kind of left me feeling salty. But playing it again, I definitely enjoyed it. I had some absolute cinema grind games against people. Shout out to Charles. That was just an insane mirror match. And then shout out to Kramer at the end, who I'm surprised I clutched it out against. But definitely some good players at Tinley. Come out anytime. Down to the one-ups, we have Lubellion, we have Mercurier, we have the 1 Tragedy, and the 1 Kit. So this is obviously a very common send off of Albaz to go into Albion. That's when you can tribute the Albion with this to bring it back. Place the Branded Lost. Now you have an Albion that was properly summoned in grave, so at the end phase, it will set a Branded Banishment. Branded Banishment will bring itself back to fuse off of the Albion, triggering the loss that you have placed off of his effect. So you will now get a Light and Darkness Dragon Lord, and getting a search that won't be negated in the form of like Mercurier or maybe follow-up. And the Lad is probably answering 3 cards out of your opponent's deck and then chain blocking for the rest of the game. So that's pretty cool. Mercurier is the 1 searchable monster negate. 1's fine in a 50 card build. Tragedy is a send sometimes for Albaz. I end up using this a lot of the times just to reset Branded cards, because when you get into the grind game situation, I don't really care to search Alibers. And then I also don't care to I also don't care to search Guiding Quems. Because I have other ways to get into them anyway. But that's a monster lineup. This is really all you need. You might max it on some other names if it gets to a 60 card build. I'm not really a fan of playing high count though, but that's just me personally. With 60 card builds, you can consider cards like That Grass is Greener as another option to trigger cards like Saronir and Albion. Onto the spells. 2 Branded Fusion, because 2's only legal. The whole deck revolves around getting to this and resolving it, or looping it with Fusion Duplication. A lot of people did not have the Ash today, so maybe that's why I'm here making this deck profile. But it's a very insane card that must be answered. Then we have the 3 Branded Opening to get to the backbone, which is Guiding Quem. Guiding Quem will make sure that Albaz stays in rotation and continuously fusing off with your opponent's cards. Then we have the 3 Fallen and the Virtuous, which is the new support anime lore card that came out. It's been crazy all day. It's kind of crazy how like you can take such a high combo, high ceiling deck like Branded, and you kind of just say, I know Branded Fusion makes this a high quality ceiling, but sometimes the best support a deck can get is just targeted pop, which is kind of crazy. It'll send like Renbrum as a way to trigger the Albaz in the same turn that it was used, or it could send Albion for follow-up, send Titaniclad to guarantee that you have the Guiding Quem to hit the field to keep looping fall of Albaz. Just an insane built-in cost send for a fusion, then target pop. I don't play the Ecclesia in this deck, so the other effect doesn't come up, but I'm sure it gets even crazier if you do have Ecclesia in the deck. Then we go on to the Branded High Spirits. This is just another way to see branded fusion, or another way to get your game plan going, because Ash on the branded fusion is very common, which is what they'll hold it for, but there are lines to basically guarantee that you get pretty much everything you would have gotten from branded fusion, and it's kind of like the Ash never mattered anyway, so just maxing out on good cards to see a game plan. 3, fusion deployment. I am a stan for this artwork. I think this is the best artwork. This is very good for breaking boards, as well as just finding that Cartesia to help you dodge imperms and veilers, although targeting negation isn't very common right now. But again, just insulating your play so that it's a skill check on the imperm for Alibur, then you have the Cartesia to answer it. But also just been an insane board breaker today. Then talking about an actual board breaker, Super Poly, especially in the mirror, just an insane card all around, helping me dodge effects, helping me bring out cards that people didn't even think about, like just fusing off, like one of their extra decks plus an Albaz, just insane. Onto 2 thrust. 2 thrust only in the main because the third one is sided, but this is good enough for the ratio. 1 branded loss, 1 branded in red. 1 Foolish Burial is like a wild card that can tutor for a couple different things. A talent because it's searchable, but it just also is busted. Saw it against Charles twice today is kind of what helped me win. That was an insane grind game, and I'm surprised I didn't scoop game 1. But having talents plus a Super Poly off the top guaranteed that it didn't matter what his board was, it kind of just played through it. And then the 1 called by because you want your branded fusion to resolve. So onto the traps, we have the 1 Retribution, mainly using it as a way to recur your spells back to your hand, but it also is a way to stop special summon effects. It typically doesn't come often though. Branded Banishment has been insane all game. Just making Light and Darkness Dragon Lords here and there has been pretty good, but can also Super Poly with your opponent's field in a very janky way. And then the 1 Fusion Duplication as a thrust target, so that in the event that your Branded Fusion does get negated, you're able to thrust for this, and then just kind of do the same thing on their following turn. Not as insane, but it is a backup game plan that can be considered. And then we'll go on to the extra deck here before the side deck. So Mirror Jade has been one of my favorite cards, one of my first boss monsters coming back into the TCG. I'm glad I get to play it again. It sucks that I have to be a Brandy, but like there's other worse decks to play. The 1 Lubellion to keep looping your fusion material, mainly to get into Mirror Jade. The 2 Albion is both send costs and fusion targets for your branded fusion. 2 is fine for now. This deck can punish you if your resource management isn't very good when it comes to the grind game. It hasn't really been a problem though. There's plenty of fusion names in the deck that you can still send for Mirror Jade or the Fallen and the Virtuous to stay in the game. And as long as you've established big bodies on board and you keep looping your resources like Cartesia and Albaz, having fusion targets shouldn't be the biggest deal in the world, as there's usually something you can go into. The 1 Rimbrum. The Rimbrum is a great send off of Fallen and Virtuous because it can also banish itself to summon the Albaz, but you can also just hard make it to negate monster effects. The 1 Titaniclad is a very common first send just to make sure that Guiding Quem hits the field so that Albaz can keep coming back. Alba Inatus as kind of a flex spot. You can contact fuse with Draco Tail boards, mirror matches as well, so that you can just instantly send a set Albaz and all their dragon monsters and just come out with this guy and he can just attack for the same material. So that's pretty cool. The new support card hasn't been as insane. Maybe it's because I'm not using it to make a towers, but this card can shuffle back, and it's just great having as a super poly target. Very busted card for sure. I need to get better with using it though. It can be difficult if they're going to prog effects in the graveyard, because you would have to proactively make this before they prog them to be able to spin them back. It's not as fast as like maybe a call by or something, but still a very nut card. And then on to the rest, we have the 2 Grand Wignall. 2's fine. You can maybe cut down to 1 to fit more stuff, but I think 2's good. Just dumping things and then banishing to summon your Despian monsters. Shout out to Rob. I can't believe I forgot not having these. I think I sold them a long time ago. But Brother Man came in clutch today before the tournament, and I definitely needed these today as Proskenian helped me go for game. I didn't make Queritus all day, but in theory it comes up, and it's also a good super poly target. And then for the rest of the generic fusions, we play the Chaos. I play this over the Borreload Furious, and there's merit to play one or the other. This one is easier to make and more generic. And when it, in terms of popping, it can pop multiple. But the Borreload Furious also can come up, and it can just keep popping cards turn after turn. So there's consideration for both. I'm going to see what works in the meantime. But the Light and Darkness Dragon, if I make this, I usually win because it answers just 3 cards right off the bat, plus my Mirror Jade and whatever else they might have, or I might have on the board. And then the one Garura is a super poly target, and then just draw power to send with Grand Guignol. On the extra deck, I will try to make this quick. My bad. We have the Fusion Duplication is another thrust target, so that if I don't see it in my opening hand and the branded Fusion gets ashed, this can still be thrust anyway, but 2 maxed out. 1 D-Barrier because it's still legal until the emergency ban list hits. Haven't needed it all day, actually haven't cited it in, so not a big deal. Triple Attack is thrust. This is the 3rd copy. It just fits better in the side deck. Going first to set your Fusion Duplication, otherwise going second to find your board breakers, such as 3 Dark Ruler. This is not searchable, but 3 Droplet. Haven't needed it all day, but in theory it's there to help you dodge things quicker. Then we've got your Spell and Trap removal, your 1 Duster, your 2 Lightning Storm. Also searchable off thrust. And then this is another board breaker. That's really all you need in this deck. Maybe Judgments or something could be considered. But yeah, just fully maxing out on the board breakers because it's as simple as I have a grind game naturally anyway. If I can just put you on the back foot with unfair cards that can be searched, then it's no different than if I just went first anyway and activated Branded Fusion uncontested. So that's the deck. I'm really glad to be back in Modern. I did not expect to have as much fun as I did playing Branded of all things, but all things considered, considering that it's another Justice Hunters format, it's looking like for the next couple months or so. I would rather be playing this than anything else. The skill ceiling is way up there. The combos, the amount of things you can do, the things that I'm learning in the middle of tournament, all very insane, very fun stuff. This is a feeling that I haven't had in a while. So definitely, again, shout out to Rob for helping me out with the cards today and for being cameraman. Shout out to TGS for the charity tournament. This is a really fun event. I ended up pulling some pretty busted cards out of some packs. And then just shout out to the Chicago boys. You know, Chicago, baby. But thanks, guys, and see you next time.